Congressman Himes, thanks so much and good to see you.
Great to be here, Erin.
All right, so first of all, how many people have signed on to this letter?
Well, it's still in motion, but we've got close to 100 Democrats and Republicans who, as you said, have said we need to go big and we need to keep everything on the table. That's a pretty big step forward for this Congress.
And that quote that I gave was from a draft of the letter which said all options for mandatory and discretionary spending and revenues must be on the table. That line is still in there, right?
That's right, and obviously that's a line that's hard for people in both parties to say, but there's 100 of them now who have said who have agreed to that language.
So what about this super committee? It's interesting. We had Mr. Camp on last night. There is now a story out of Reuters tonight that Tim Ryan, Democrat on the House Budget Committee, says that there's broad sentiment in Congress that the U.S. economy will not necessarily suffer from another downgrade from the other two big agencies. Is that broad sentiment in Congress?
Yeah, I would disagree with that. Look, there's a lot of concern articulated by a lot of us that if there is a failure on the part of the Supercommittee, that it just sort of continues the notion around the world that we can't govern ourselves. So I would actually say that there is real fear. And in addition to that real fear, of course, if the Supercommittee doesn't fail to come up with a good plan, you've got these automatic cuts that kick in that everybody hates. I mean, they're big, brutal cuts. So there's a lot of hope. I'm not going to go so far as to say optimism, but a lot of hope that these guys will get a proposal put together.
CNN is reporting today that John Boehner, talking about those automatic cuts, because they hit in places that nobody wants, massive cuts to defense that Secretary Panetta doesn't want, that John Boehner has said, let's take those automatic cuts off because they're bad, and he says that will force the committee to act. Now, if that's the case, that's very concerning, because to me that would mean the committee will do nothing.
Yeah, and look, the whole point is that they're very bad. That's why they are there. They are there to make this super committee look like they've got, some really serious troubles if they don't succeed. So they're bad and they're in law. So John Boehner may have decided that he doesn't like them and that he'd like to do away with them, but they are in law. And they are what is ultimately going to get this super committee to do what it needs to do.
So Jay Carney made a joke today about 9. And he was making a joke about the 999 plan, but just talking about 9 being a bad number. But it is the number of approval rating for Congress. Okay, so what are you guys going to do about that? I mean, what is it that Congress doesn't get about the fact that people want something?
Well, yeah, and people do want something done, but people also sent a group of 70 freshmen on the Republican side that were pretty uncompromising and have been pretty uncompromising. So I get it. People are economically insecure. They're losing their jobs. They're losing their home. I understand why they're angry at Congress. They look at the bailouts. They look at, partisanship and the bickering that occurs. But hey, you know what? We all got sent here by more than 50% of our constituents. And so this is another reason why I think it's so important that the super committee get this done, because if we get it done, nobody's going to like what gets done. This is, this is stuff that's hard to talk about.
And your letter's looking for $4 trillion in cuts, which is about 3 times as much as the super committee has to come up with.
Yeah, but it's also the number that stabilizes the United States debt. Look, if it's not $4 trillion, we'll be back next year or the year after doing this again.
Right, and it is a magic number where if you don't get that, the downgrades,
maybe.
They keep coming.
Maybe.
All right. Thanks so much, Congressman Himes. Good to see you and appreciate it.
Good to see you, Erin.